Over 33% of Bangladesh's population is unbanked. Most are farmers who live a tough, hand-to-mouth life and grow their own food. They often find themselves with excess produce that gets either wasted or sold at unfair prices at the end of the day, leaving them with no savings, no security, and no hope for a better future. So how do you get farmers to open bank accounts and escape their cycle of poverty? Welcome to Behind the Winning Idea, where we explore groundbreaking work with the help of the team behind it. I'm Chiara Manco, and today we're talking about the Grand Prix winner of this year's Walk Prize for Asian Strategy, Project Agrobanking. The initiative, through Grey Bangladesh, was a partnership between United Commercial Bank and retailer Shrapno to allow Bangladeshi farmers to open bank accounts. For a few years now, United Commercial Bank has focused on financial inclusion, a hot topic in Bangladesh. While the country is one of the top 5 fastest growing economies in the world, a third of its population is financially excluded. Most of the unbanked population is made up by farmers, stuck in a cycle of poverty. They're unable to save money because their only investable asset is their unsold produce, and at the end of the day, this often goes to waste or is sold at low prices. With Project Agrobanking, United Commercial Bank partnered local retailer Shrapno to set up collection points where farmers could deposit their produce and transfer its value in money to a mobile bank account. The produce would then be taken to the nearest Shrapno outlet to be sold. To date, Agrobanking has reached more than 100 locations, led to the opening of 122,000 new bank accounts, and is helping United Commercial Bank be perceived as a more progressive bank. There are 4 things that particularly impressed us about this work: the way it democratized innovation, how it successfully connected with a rural audience, its use of traditional media, and its scalable nature. We spoke with Bitop Dasgupta, AVP and Strategic Planning Lead at Grey Bangladesh, to delve deeper into these 4 themes. There's no doubt Project Agrobanking was more than an advertising campaign, but rather an innovation to better the lives of its audience. And it targeted a rural audience that rarely benefits from innovation. This is what Bitop calls democratic innovation.
Earlier the innovation used to happen in silos in the upper part of the society where most of the facilities are already in place. Only people with affluence, they could afford that innovation. They could access to that innovation. But I think it's not really important that the innovation would happen only in that zone. It's also important that the innovation actually happens in places where the problems persist. So there are real life problems happening in people's lives, and innovation actually needs to solve those, because otherwise no one can grow alone. Everyone has to grow together, and that's the norm of today's society. So if the fruit of innovation does not reach even to the most underprivileged segment of the society, you are as weak as them. So even the rich will not grow as much as they can unless the most underprivileged also grow.
You'd think that unbanked farmers might dismiss communications from a bank, seeing it as preachy, patronizing, or simply not relevant to them. But one of Project Agrobanking's great strengths was how it successfully communicated with this audience. Bitop told us a bit more about how they achieved this.
When we also tried to dig deeper into the kind of perception these people have about banks or the formal financial sector, we also saw that they think that banks are not for them. Banks are not approachable. Banks are not very accessible to. So they think it's for the people with money. Otherwise, and they have very little amount of money, and banks probably wouldn't care much about them. So that was the kind of perception that existed, and it was important for us to break that perception and make ourselves as accessible and as approachable as possible. So that's why you will see that the kind of solutions we tried to give we tried to create here, that was actually about going to their zone rather than inviting them to our space, our zone. So we actually went to their zone, their community, their neighborhood, and tried to tell them that we are here to solve your problem. Okay, so and the moment we did it, actually the kind of response we got from them, that those were very interesting, very phenomenal. Because I clearly can remember one of my colleagues saying that one of the farmers actually told him that no one cares about us. You have shown that that care, that you have given something to us which can really solve our problem, and we are eternally grateful for that. So that was the kind of the approachability actually helped create that impact in their mind.
As the COVID pandemic forced migrant workers to return to their villages, it's increasingly important for marketers to focus on rural audiences and figure out the best way to communicate with them. According to BTOP, collaboration is an essential component of strategies wishing to successfully connect with this audience.
Collaboration is going to be very key to reach out these rural audiences, because there can be separate brands acting in the same environment, and everyone has their different level of understanding about that segment, so especially the rural audience here. And I think some will have advantage in one front, and the other brand will have some advantages on another front. So for example, in this case, UCB had the power of innovation. UCB had bank accounts in their hand, but whereas Shopno, they had outreach. It was important for UCB to utilize that outreach of Shopno to get to these deep rural areas. So, in this changing situation, it's important that you realize which brand has what strength and how you can come together and offer a solution as partners.
To reach its target audience of rural farmers, Project Agrobanking used traditional media such as out-of-home and megaphone announcements. Many judges on the panel for this year's Walk Prize for Asian Strategy found this refreshing. Writing in the 2020 Asian Strategy Report, Judge Dave McCaughan, founder and storyteller at Bibliosexual, said, "I love it when brands use non-digital social platforms. It's a reminder that life is more than a screen, and for many people in the world, screens are not available or viable." Through these media, the initiative reached farmers in their own villages, targeting them directly to build a sort of close relationship that United Commercial Bank was after. Megaphones in particular hold a lot of emotional power in rural Bangladesh.
Basically in Bangladesh, the villages, in the villages, the people actually live in dispersed areas. Not everything is together like the urban areas. You actually don't know the people living next door to you in the urban centers, but in the rural, it's not like that. So people have space, and megaphone is one thing that brings people together. So it works like a magnet here in Bangladesh. Okay, so in the rural areas of Bangladesh. So I think that has that that power, which is very nostalgic sometimes, which is very romantic too, I believe.
By meeting farmers in their own towns and villages and using media familiar to them, United Commercial Bank earned the trust of its audience, laying the foundations for future social initiatives. Two of them are actually already in the making. The first one, Project 50/50, will allow farmers and consumers to become investors in their production, while the second one will target the urban poor, once again with the aim of financial inclusion. Democratic innovation and initiatives such as Project Agrobanking that are able to achieve a sustainable impact will be all the more important in the post-COVID world. This is what Gray calls building back better. That's why I would like to leave you with some advice from BTOP on how agencies and brands can join forces to develop meaningful, sustainable strategies that go beyond advertising alone and can impact communities.
To bring in a sustainable change, it's important that we also get a deeper insight into the culture and the behavior of all the segments that are existing there. And everyone has their unique set of problems. Everyone has their unique set of beliefs. And we need to understand that really better. And then we can, bring in purposeful branding initiatives onto the table and solve everyone's problem. So there comes in the democracy of innovation, because since everyone's problem is different, your innovation also has to be different. Your innovation also has to be tailor-made for them. As a brand, it's important that that you don't come across as a profiteering brand, as a brand which only cares about its top line. Rather, you also need to show that you care for the society. So the business's role needs to emerge from the need of the society, rather than coming across as a brand which provides certain solution. So the solution never should come first. Rather, the problem should come first, and the solution, or your brand, your product, should come as a solution to that. So that's how you define your role in the society. So the marketing of doing good that we call it these days, it needs to be backed up by real actions, and real actions that really matter. So this development that we have seen across, it's also a very welcome opportunities for the agencies to be true strategic advisors to the brands they work for, and work out really bold creative ideas which can solve real life problems, and which really goes beyond the advertising stunts that we see so much around.
You can find all winners of the 2020 Walk Prize for Asian Strategy on Walk. For trends and themes from them, as well as insights from the past 10 years of the prize, check out the 2020 Walk Asian Strategy Report.